Mahou Shoujo Madoka Magica is one of the prime examples of a highly acclaimed anime that has spawned controversy and debate amongst anime fans. On one side you have fans who have spent countless hours trying to decipher and analyze its hidden treasures, and fans who have been on board ever since they first saw what a magical girl show looks like through the Shaft lens. On the other side there are people arguing for the show's unwarranted popularity, critically pointing out the use of shock effects, time travel and plot twists. That controversy certainly didn't end once the show's fame spawned an entire trilogy, the first two films summarizing the story, while the third turned everything we already thought we knew upside down. To be frank, the original 12 episodes of Madoka Magica is my jam. The obscurely gorgeous animation, the ominously beautiful score, the alluringly relentless story, and the characters, who we'll somewhat get to in a second. What can I say? I love it, and even though I've seen a fair share of essays trying to tear it apart, I'm still yet to have a bad experience on my rewatches. However, as much as I love the show, I really haven't felt the need to make a video about it. Until now, that is. I mean, I guess I could make a thorough review or analysis, but I don't think there would be much purpose. It's freaking Madoka Magica. If you haven't made up your mind about it already, then sure, go watch it. Consider yourself recommended. But chances are, if you're here in this channel, then you've already made up your mind of what you think about it. Nonetheless, there is one thing that has always intrigued me, and that is on the subject of the girl whose name lies in the title. You see, it's not hard to tell what people who dislikes the show thinks of her. She is bland, dull, and useless. In fact, even fans of the show itself tend to think of her as the show's weak point, while praising the other more active characters. Not that I necessarily blame them, those are lovely too. But what if I told you that she is not just my favorite character of this show, but she is actually one of my favorite characters in all of anime? Now there is a topic worth covering. I guess if I was put on the spot by my old English teacher, then I would call this a character analysis, but just don't hang me too much up on it. Before that though, there is a much more subjective thing that I think we should cover, and that is on the subject of likability. Let's face it, I cannot control whether or not you find Madoka likable. I happen to think her presentation is beyond enthralling. The way she fiercely wakes her mother up and further chats with her in the bathroom, showing us that they are basically best friends, and the way that she takes the role of the mature older sister when she eats with her family. Her respectable voice actresses in Japanese and English both does a lovely job at adding another believable dimension to her character as well. And don't you tell me that this animation of her tumbling around in bed isn't cute as hell. Anyway, let's get a bit nerdy. Madoka is the type of character that has certain traits and themes presented in the first episode that will resurface and reflect in her actions throughout the story. She is thoughtful, as shown by the way she adapts to her surroundings to let everyone be themselves. She is timid and indecisive, which is just easy words to throw at young adolescents who are kind of shy. It would be better to call her conscientious. This is seen in her behavior all throughout the show. Even when asked easy questions, she hesitates a bit to make sure that she gives the right answer, as shown by her reaction to Homura asking her if she treasures the life that she currently lives and if she considers her family and friends precious. She's also the only one to not judge Homura as the antagonist that everybody else is claiming her to be. The last poignant word describing Madoka is altruistic. I've already touched on the word in my video about Kobato, but I will cover it briefly. Altruism can be traced back to Stoicism, Judaism, and Christianity, and is investigated by several renowned thinkers throughout time. It's about being entirely unselfish and devoted for the welfare of others. It's a common theme within the series, and is also expressed by Madoka's best friend Sayaka early on in the series, where Sayaka is contemplating whether or not they are actually even worthy of being granted such powerful wishes. There are many examples of Madoka's altruistic behavior, but obviously the best is the wish that she ends up making. In fact, let's talk about that. The wish sounds as follows.
I wish I had the power to erase all witches before they're even born. Every witch, past, present, and future. That wish! Once it's granted, it will unravel the fabric of time itself. It violates the laws of karmic destiny. Are you trying to become a god? I don't care what I become. All the magical girls who believed in hope and fought witches, I don't want them to suffer or cry anymore. I want them to be at peace. And if that goes against the laws of the universe, then I'll just rewrite those laws. That's the only thing I want. It's what I wish for.
Let's begin by poking at the elephant in the room. After the anime's inception, there's been a fair amount of posts and videos pointing out how she could have made better wishes than she already did. As true as those posts may be, it's not an inherent flaw of the show. What some doesn't realize is that characters aren't supposed to always make the perfect decision or the one that you would have preferred them to make. Based on the observations made and the information given, Madoka's wish makes sense. It's noble, unselfish, thoughtful, and maybe a bit profound. What's funny is that she kind of approaches the wish like she would probably approach an essay that she would have to write in school. When she makes the wish, she experiences a vision before transcending. In this vision, she meets two people, Mami and Kyoko. Obviously, you could take the vision plainly and think of it as Madoka having an actual conversation with two people that she now has the power to meet, but I think it's more fun to look at the symbolic implications. Mami is explaining the mechanics of the wish to Madoka and the audience alike. Kyoko is giving her blessing. If we view this vision as a dreamlike rite of passage, then Kyoko and Mami represents different sides of Madoka. Mami represents the role model, someone who Madoka can look up to. Her expressing understanding for Madoka's wish is symbolic for Madoka's own acceptance of the wish. Kyoko is a bit different. She was the only magical girl besides Homura who have expressed a clear disdain towards the idea of Madoka becoming a magical girl. In turn, her blessing is important to Madoka's transformation. The scene is essentially Madoka proving how certain that she is herself that she is doing the right thing. If we really want to learn everything there is to know about Madoka, then we should look a bit at the people who she interacts with. Mami, as I've already said, is a straight up role model. She is older, wiser, elegant, strong, beautiful. Heck, she even got bigger boobs, which you know is probably going to matter at least a little bit in the eyes of Madoka. However, through her death, she quickly becomes the catalyst for Madoka's main conflict. Before Mami's death, Madoka was fairly comfortable with the idea of being a magical girl, and the only thing that held her back was low self-esteem and her lack of a wish. However, after Mami dies, Madoka becomes aware of the reality of being a magical girl. Homura's relationship with Madoka is quite poetic. The reason why Madoka has gained the immense magical potential that she inhabits is because of Homura's relentless attempts at saving her. But the very reason why Homura wants to save Madoka in the first place is because of Madoka's kindness. Sakura is a character who haven't really had much interaction with Madoka. In fact, the first time the two of them really chats, Sakura is a bit pulled back by Madoka's eagerness to throw herself into danger. Sayaka and Madoka are best friends. In the beginning of the story, they are on what you could call equal footing. Both of them were a bit hesitant about becoming magical girls, and both of them didn't know what to wish for. However, whereas Madoka is using the information she is given to realize that becoming a magical girl isn't as favorable as you would think, Sayaka ends up making a wish to make her crush recover from his injuries. The problem is that Sayaka didn't make her wish for the sake of the boy getting better, but for the sake of him being with her. She then falls into despair between her realizing that her crush was into another girl and the fact that a magical girl's soul resides in a soul gem. This amplifies the overall theme of altruism because you can see how the story is punishing Sayaka for becoming a magical girl for selfish reasons. Sayaka's deterioration throughout the show creates a stark contrast to Madoka, which is very effective because it shows us what could have happened to Madoka. Lastly, we have Madoka's mother, Yonko, who in spite of not having much screen time, impressively manages to become a rounded and dynamic character. I've always sort of viewed her as an example of what Madoka would be like if if she had ever grown up. Junko is very supportive and caring about her daughter. She is definitely the character that talks the most with Madoka about adolescence. One of my favorite scenes of the series is a conversation between the two of them where Madoka is having a hard time deciding what to do with Sayaka. Junko tells Madoka that sometimes the right thing to do is doing something wrong. What's interesting here is the fact that Homura in an earlier episode said something similar to Madoka.
Remember this, and take it to heart. Sometimes kindness can lead to even greater tragedy.
Okay, so we've talked a little bit about what makes her compelling to me and what makes her interesting by presenting themes and by talking about her relationship to others. But let's face it, as compelling and intricate as I think Madoka is, then it is fairly easy to find other characters like that. Let's try digging a bit deeper and find out what is unique to Madoka specifically, what differentiates her from other characters and what makes me like her so much. Actually, it just so happens to be a variation of the same thing that a lot of people criticizes her for. Her introversion, her passiveness, her quote-unquote uselessness. Madoka Kaname is the perfect example of a character whose progression has been the very cause of the passiveness she has received so much criticism for. What some people tend to forget is that a character declining an offer and standing their ground can be just as developing as a character jumping into the fray. Throughout the course of the show, she witnesses as other girls becomes magical girls and faces the consequences thereof. It is quickly revealed how easily magical girls can lose their lives in action. It is then revealed that magical girls aren't remembered once they are gone. Typically enough, what Madoka focuses on here is not the fact that she herself will not be remembered, but instead the fact that she is sad that other magical girls in general won't be remembered. It is further revealed that when becoming a magical girl, you lose your body and your soul is stored inside the soul gem, which has to stay close to your quote-unquote body in order to make it work. It is also revealed that in order to keep your body alive, magical power have to be collected, something that is done by defeating witches. In other words, magical girls cannot return to their normal lives. Then it is revealed that once a magical girl dies or are consumed, then they turn into witches. So with all of this information given, it is very obvious why Madoka would choose not to become a magical girl. However, in spite of having been rejecting becoming a magical girl over and over, that doesn't mean she haven't been active. Pretty much every time when Mami or Sayaka are out on missions, Madoka wants to follow them and help as much as she can, even if she is arguably in more danger because of her not having powers. If she suddenly had taken the bait and just become a magical girl halfway through, then it wouldn't be consistent with her character. There is a sense of completion and full circle for Madoka's character. There is an earnest realism to her, and she doesn't feel trapped within her own archetype, which is an impressive feat considering the fact that she had to express herself in a show with only 12 episodes, a lot of characters, and a relatively large amount of plot. As compelling as that makes her, she is also thematically layered, but set themes aren't forcefully added to a character for the purpose of perplexity. The themes of altruism, introspection, adolescence, responsibility, and family never feels imposed, but are rather smoothly paralleled with her characters and story's progression. On top of being compelling and thematically layered, Madoka also sort of transcends and becomes a larger-than-life character, someone who is to be admired, someone who should be looked up to. She transcends literally in the story and figuratively in the viewer's minds. I mentioned the term full circle because I don't view Madoka as a character who just reached her conclusion by coincidence. The reason why Madoka becomes a deity is because of a wish made through her own introspection and observations, which are all due to who she is. She may not have eaten the fruit or showed her hand right away, but that never stopped her from being a dynamic, layered, admirable, and just flat out lovely character nonetheless.